Good morning. I'm Mimi Lichtenstein, and today on Adventures in Luxury Travel, I am here with Matthew Souse. Matthew, welcome to the show.
Hi, everyone.
Thanks for joining me today. I'm very excited to have you on because following our remote location last time that was in the cold of Alaska, we are now going to a completely different remote location off the coast of Tanzania. Let's do this. How about Matthew, tell us, we'll show where it is first. Let's look at it off the map. And then I want to hear from you the history and the story of how you created this beautiful place.
Okay, good.
For those of you listening, it's off the east coast of Africa. You can see where the arrow is pointing. And then as you zoom in, you get a little closer. There is an island right in between Kenya and Tanzania. You get a little closer, and the Manta Resort is at the very northern tip of this little island off the coast of Tanzania. So, Matthew, tell us a little bit more about it.
Well, in your description, it's a really good one because we actually are the most remote resort in Tanzania and Zanzibar. We are as far away as you could possibly get from anything, which we like a lot.
Yeah.
So Pemba is part of the Zanzibar archipelago, and it's the North Island of the two. It's the Northern Island. So as you can see, and yeah, exactly, that's Zanzibar. And then just to the north is very much a forgotten island, Mimi. You know, not a lot is known about Pemba. It's never really in any literature or in any news. It's a really sleepy, forgotten island. But it has a big significance locally. Pemba Island actually means the green island, literally translated. And it literally is that because all the spices and herbs really do come from Pemba. A lot of them think they come from the main island, Zanzibar, which has another name. Its real name is Unguja. So Unguja and Pemba make up the archipelago of Zanzibar, and it's just off the coast of Tanzania. So yeah, we're as far away as you can possibly get.
And how did you end up deciding to create this beautiful place off this little tiny island at Pemba?
Well, I think in the photographs that we'll look at, that maybe you'll show in due course now, we were looking for the perfect place to put an underwater room. And in 2005, I was working with a partner in a company we set up together to develop the concept and the experience of sleeping underwater and waking up in the middle of the night with fish surrounding, outside the windows, and just being in the middle of the ocean, which would be completely different to diving, completely different to any other experience that you could possibly have in the sea. And so we looked, and this is when I was actually in Sweden. So we looked, and I'm from Zimbabwe originally, so I naturally gravitated back towards the southern part of Africa, and we looked all the way down the Mozambican coast and went out to Seychelles and all over the place. And we finally found this very, very remote dive camp. It was a dive lodge in those days. And it was actually the first place that ever had people coming to visit Pemba for the specific reason of diving, because the water that you see between Pemba and the mainland, Tanga, that whole strip of water is actually called the Pemba Channel. And the Pemba Channel is an extremely important to the ecology and the ecosystem around the islands. Exactly, that channel there. Yeah, it's a very deep channel. It's 1,100 meters deep, as opposed to this water between Zanzibar and mainland, which is only about 300. So it's a granite-based island. So its topography is also different. It's not a flat coral atoll. So it's a lot more interesting in that regard. And the area around there, famous for visibility, famous for diving. We thought, okay, let's go dive and have a look and see if we can find a location. And we found this anomaly in the reef. There's this beautiful area that we call the blue hole that is surrounded by shallow coral, and at low tide, at spring low, you can almost walk out there and then dive into this swimming pool. So yeah, it became our top location, and we decided let's go. So we then got hold of the owner and who we'd met, who actually introduced us to the property. Yeah, that's the one there. The original owner introduced us to the property, and we took over the property, rebuilt it, and then worked on getting the underwater room there, which took another 7 years, by the way,
Wow.
from our original acquisition of the area.
And
Yeah, so that's how we
you've
got there.
been on it. So you bought it originally in what year?
2007. So
2007. Okay.
15 years ago, yeah.
Okay. And so I know a big part of what you do is very based on sustainability for this beautiful place that you're in,
Mm.
which has many, sustainability isn't just, not, leaving trash and recycling and all of that. Obviously, it has to do with the local people and the local culture and supporting them. And I know
Mm.
the staff are a big part of what you do. And I know you have a few different, probably a lot of different initiatives. Do you want to tell us a little bit about those?
Sure. Well, that's also part of this, the story and how we began, because when we got there, um, we understood that we were going to make quite a big impact, because we weren't just another hotel coming to an already um, existing tourism structure. We were going to be kind of breaking new ground, and in doing that, we realized that the communities had no real knowledge of what tourism was and what it could do for their future, or detrimentally affect their future in a negative way.
Hmm.
So that's really how we began the Kwanini Foundation. Now, our foundation is directly connected to the Manta Resort. We support it through tourism, and Kwanini means why in Swahili. So the communities were starting to ask us, why are you guys here? And we would say, well, why we think tourism is important to come here. We would answer that question. We'd answer the question about why we believe conservation and the protection of the natural resource for the future is really important. And so all these questions started coming up, and we started addressing these in lots and lots and lots of discussions and meetings, and lots of collaboration with the communities and sharing ideas. And it just became a kind of naturally just evolved. It's organically just evolved into a really now rather big organization that does huge amounts of work for marine conservation and for promoting the right type of tourism to the island, working with the government, working with community projects.
Hmm.
And we just about to take another huge leap forward now, again, in a new partnership with another organization called Blue Finance, that want to get involved with us and start opening up some more marine protected areas. So just
Yeah.
before the underwater room got there, the underwater room was fantastic in the way that it opened doors. Everyone would want to know about the underwater room and, okay, what's that going to mean, and what effect is it going to have on the environment? And we started doing environmental impact assessments and explaining to everybody what could happen. And then we had the idea of closing off this area, which is 1 kilometer right in front of the lodge, 1 kilometer on the drop off, as a conservation area, as a marine protected area, an MPA. And with the communities, it was pretty much handshake stuff in those days. It was a lot of trust, and pretty much just, okay, let's just try to do this together. And then we started learning about how it all fits in with the Department of Fisheries, and now the new Ministry of Blue Economy, which is amazing for us. So it kind of evolved, rather quickly, but it evolved organically that way. And now we have just this absolutely amazing MPA right in front of us that people now want to begin to replicate in other parts of the island, and hopefully go down to Zanzibar too. So the model that we have with tourism supporting all this work has become very well known, actually. So everybody in Zanzibar understands what it is now, and they're thinking, well, that works there. Let's try it. Let's see if we can do that. And yeah.
What I love about it is too that when you started, you had no idea what the future held. But now that you have proven that it works and you have this amazing relationship with the community and with the government, it's just almost like a blueprint for other places to do something similar, knowing the way to do it. you know?
Absolutely. And knowing what not to do too.
Right? And so then your impact is magnified because it might not just be the Manta Resort, but it's in Zanzibar, or it's somewhere else in Africa or somewhere else in the world. To have those examples where you can make this all work and do good by doing well and all of that is just
Absolutely.
really impactful in ways, right? It's sort of like the butterfly effect. You don't even know all the impact it's going to have in your life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
So
that's a wonderful thought, Mimi.
yeah, no, I think it's absolutely true because some people think they're not going to start it because they're like, I don't know how I do it. But now you've shown how to do it. And so maybe they put their own personal stamp on it, but they've seen an example of it working really well. And
That it can be
hopefully
done, yeah.
it can be done. Hopefully in the future, I'm going to interview the owner of Fogo Island Inn, which I stayed at a few years ago with my husband.
Wonderful.
Do you know Fogo Island?
Oh, famous.
Yeah,
So well known.
famous. So Zita Cobb
So
obviously is
Zita Cobb
great.
is
She
she's
showed
an
everyone
icon.
it could work, right?
For sure.
For sure. We went there a few years ago and I absolutely loved it. Listened to her speak. She was amazing. So with examples like all of you, it just makes it easier for the next person. So well, let's talk a little bit about, some of what makes you so special. Let's first maybe start with the staff.
Yeah. I mean, that's the Manta family is really the engine behind it all, actually, because they're all from Pemba. We decided from the word go that we were going to take it slow and we were going to do it properly, and we were going to employ everybody from the local area. So 95%, 6% actually of the whole Manta family come from the area around us. Which in the beginning there were a lot of naysayers and saying, no, you can't do that. I mean, you're going to try and produce a high-end tourism product and experience, and it's going to take you too long to train everyone. But it's just so much talent and so much heart and so much care and so much pride that at the end of the day, that's really the most important thing. That's the real stuff that makes a relationship between someone hosting you and someone enjoying an experience in a real way. I mean, that's really what it's about. So, and we've got that in spades. I mean, it's just the stories I could tell you. We need at least a 4-hour show. But yeah, that's just the way it is. So Mama sitting right in the middle there is our Mama Raziki. She's kind of the matriarch of the family, and she has been baking bread from word go. Chef Rashid sits on the right-hand side of the screen. Big chef. You will see him in the video, actually, which I urge everyone to have a look at. That 11-minute long Kwanini movie on our website. Yeah.
I have the link for that, so I'll put the link in the show notes.
That'd be great. Thanks, Mimi. Because that gives you a really good idea of a lot of the story too.
Yeah. And then, so the overview,
beach. Yeah.
We were talking about this beautiful place. Now, if you're listening, you can also go watch it on our website. But the beach is beautiful. The water is crystal clear blue as you can imagine it in the photos, not photoshopped at all, just crystal clear blue. And out in the distance, very tiny up here, you can see where that underwater room is. So it's far enough away to be remote, but not too far. And then, and so tell us a little bit about how it's set up. So I know you guys have a pool and you have a gorgeous beach and you have a spa, and then tell us a little bit about the different kinds of rooms you have.
Okay, so we've got 14 rooms all in all, 6 seafront villas, and eight garden rooms. 4 of the 8 garden rooms are a little larger, so we call them superior garden rooms, and the other 4 are a little smaller. So they're just the garden room. But they're in private gardens and outside showers, and very, very popular. But the seafront villa, over the Pemba Channel is stunning. Yeah, there's an outside shower in one of the standard garden rooms.
I'm a huge fan of outside showers and swim up.
I love it. It's so wonderful. And the weather here is, I mean, it's in the middle. You're on the equator. You're only 4 degrees south of the equator.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's always warm. I think The lowest recorded temperature on Pemba in history must be 22 centigrade
Okay.
or 23 centigrade. So, yeah.
It's pretty perfect. And you can't tell if you're watching this, but Matthew is on property. He just happens to be inside of a room without the gorgeous views, but right outside that door, right? He's looking out to this beautiful tropical place. Um, and so the location, as you mentioned before, for the underwater room, which when we see a couple more pictures in a minute, people will
Yeah.
understand it looks so spectacular.
Hmm.
It's in this little pocket, like you said, like a hole within the reef.
Yeah.
So it sits perfectly out there. How do you get out there? Do you go out on one of your canoes or
A
boat?
boat. Yeah, by boat. We have two power boats that we use for diving and excursions around the reefs. So we use that for delivering our guests and delivering breakfast and lunch and dinner. And yeah, so
And I
it's
love
all
this.
by boat. Hmm.
So it's a for those to visualize it, right? So it's a platform essentially that floats on top of the water with a roof, and then there's an underwater room. And the underwater room is where the bed is and where you sleep with lots of windows to see the fish swimming by. But upstairs, when I was talking with Jessica, Matthew's daughter, and I met at the Pure conference I went to a month or so ago, she was telling me how if you have a couple of teenagers, they can actually turn those sofas into beds and they can sleep on them. Is that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we do that for sure. Absolutely.
Okay.
So
And then
it's sleeps four. Yeah.
sleeps for. Okay. And then you can
Two on
climb
top,
all the way
two
up to
down.
the top.
Yeah,
And
there's another sunbed up there. It's like a stargazing bed.
yes.
Yeah.
I think I thought I had a picture of that somewhere, but maybe I don't.
Yeah.
But I'll put it in on the website. And at nighttime to have, to be all snuggled up in the bed looking through those windows. I think Jessica told me the only thing you clean on the outside of it is the windows. Everything else just sort of gets coated by sea life.
It is coated with coral and sea life, and it's just become like a coral ball now.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. Yeah.
You can watch all the little fish swim by. And so what is this a picture of?
That's the picture at night. We have underwater lighting that lights up the area just around the underwater room, which attracts quite a lot at night. It attracts bait fish, locally called daga. They're like a little sardine. And you can imagine the fish that those attract. So it just becomes World War III at night. It's just crazy with so many fish around that area feeding and yeah, incredible. You'll have octopus climbing across the windows sometimes.
Oh my
So
goodness.
there must be, yeah, I mean, all in all, you'll see over 100 different species of fish in the conservation area, and they do move past and up and down through the underwater room, etc. So it's amazing.
Magical. Just so beautiful.
The
Oh, yeah.
government has been very kind and also setting a precedent with us because that young lady there is jumping into basically a private swimming pool. So the government actually allowed us recently, a year ago, not even a year ago, 1 hectare of sea space that is now a private area for the underwater room guests because they love the underwater room so much and they're such a good support of it that they've allowed us a space. So that's it's like this 1 hectare private swimming pool that you jump into in the middle of the conservation area in that
You
hole.
can't get that anywhere else. That's for sure.
No.
Okay. So we're coming to Manta. We're going to stay there. Definitely going to spend a night in the underwater room, spend some other nights on, more mainland island, and then activities. So clearly a lot of what is around you is related to water. Scuba diving, snorkeling are big activities.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about some of the others.
Okay, well, quickly on the diving, we have a 5-star PADI dive center.
Okay.
And we do a lot of courses and we teach people, and diving is one of our main activities. And then we do all kinds of very kind of unique, real experiences like sailing with the Ngalawa sailing. The Ngalawa is a traditional sailboat with the 2 outriggers. And they use that to handline fish. That's actually an Ngalawa sitting at the sandbank, which is just north of the tip of the island. So you're actually looking due south now in that picture.
Okay.
And if you would walk from the sandbank up and then jump onto the island, about 1 kilometer to the right there, that's where Manta is, just around that corner there. So this sandbank, again, there's so little tourism around that it's also, I mean, every time we go out there, there's just absolutely no one there. It's just, and it goes, it comes in and out, comes out and goes in to the water every time the tide moves up and down. We've got a 4-meter tide, so it comes out, and you've got this 150-meter long stretch of beach, and then within 6 hours there's nothing, and then it comes out. Wow. It's just fantastic. So that's a very, very popular excursion. I don't know if you. Oh, that's the sailing. Yeah, so we've got some guests. You can see actually some guests on the sailboats on the right there, going off on a sunset cruise. So the resort faces west, so we have this amazing sunset every evening, and you go off on the sunset cruise, which is one of the most popular experiences and activities that we do.
I love that, because just look at that, the beauty of the sunset and the sunrise, being out on the water. It's just absolutely a magical sight.
It is very special, yeah. Very special. And that's our beach. We obviously have a group of divers there. Maybe the groups that come, groups of 6 or 8 maximum. We don't take larger groups than that.
Okay.
We don't take kids younger than 7 years old. It's a little bit too remote for kids younger than 7, and so it's very, very quiet. There's no music, there's no TVs, it's just sound of the wind and the sound of the sea, and very natural. So that's our beach. Yeah,
I was going to say, do you know what I love? I did make note of what you had. I read on, maybe it was your advisor part of the website, where it's about setting expectations, which oftentimes that's a big part of what I do. And you said Pemba is a remote island off the east coast of Africa, and probably as far away from civilization your clients might ever find themselves. If it's serenity, close encounters with nature, and a family of staff you crave, the Manta Resort is the place for you. So, right, if you're looking for anything more than that, as far as activity level or TV or all that, it's not the place for you. So you guys are very clear about that. So we want everyone to know that before they go.
My mother wrote that.
Oh, she did. That's
yeah.
It's very helpful, I think, for everybody, right? Because you want people to come who are the people who want to be in a place that is this quiet and tranquil. Yeah.
Exactly. If you really want to get off the beaten track, like really, then we are the place to come for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's a beautiful shot. And I think to be able to have dinners out on the beach, looking out at this beautiful sunset, whether it be with just, your loved one that you're there with, or with a smaller or a bigger family group, it's just a really beautiful
and
option.
you'll be eating, that's the beach lounge. You'll be eating fish that's just come out of the sea. I mean, literally. So those boats that you saw in the other picture, that's all real fishermen that are coming in from handline fishing. They'll come in with their tuna and dorado and sailfish and kingfish, and that goes straight into the kitchen and straight on your plate for dinner. So I mean, it's wonderful.
It doesn't get much fresher than that, right?
Yeah, it can't get much fresher than that, for sure.
And I'm just curious if they, like with the fire picture that we're showing here, kind of like the bonfire. Do they have that every night, or like what's kind of the atmosphere and the vibe of people while they're there?
Well, that night there was a group when we were taking these pictures, there was a group having dinner. You saw that table. So normally we do a little bonfire. I mean, we don't do a lot of fires on the beach, just a little bonfire. And again, it's all, we keep things really, really simple. So there's nothing really bling or lavish, or it's just really simple, comfortable, lovely, real stuff. That's our kind of thing. So we just do things in a really real, simple way. And a little fire with some fresh seafood and lobster and prawns. Seafood platters on the beach. Yeah, and the stars. I mean, because the light pollution in this part of the world is practically non-existent. So Milky Way every night. I mean, just full Milky Way.
And you can see that in this photo behind the trees.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I mean, it's definitely barefoot luxury at its finest, I think so. um, I love it. It's just so beautiful. All right. Well, tell us also, let's touch on fishing again for a second. So you mentioned the handline fishing, and people can also go out further to go deep sea fishing, right? Outside of the conservation area.
Correct. Actually, we outsourced that with a good friend of ours who lives just down the way, and
Okay.
he's Captain Bob. Actually, Captain Bob.
Captain Bob.
Um, Captain Bob, and he's a really, actually, it's he's quite an enigma, really, caught in a riddle. But he lives down here, and he's got this amazing fishing boat, and that's all he does. And we just give Captain Bob a call and say, listen, we've got some guests who want to go deep sea fishing, and he does a really good job. And he's got all the best stuff for like big game fishing, catch and release, of course.
Okay.
But they'll in season catch marlin, and yeah, I mean, it's game fishing in this part of the world is a big thing.
Well, therefore, I did
It's
have
not a huge thing with us, but it is a big thing.
Yeah. I had clients who were in the Seychelles for lots of deep sea fishing. So that, I mean, that whole area off of East Africa is just flush
teeming.
With
Absolutely. Yeah.
So fun. And tell me a little bit more about, so the food that you guys have, lots of freshly caught fish, do you have your own farms or, gardens that you?
Yeah, we do. We have a garden that I'm looking at through this window behind us here, with veggies and lettuces and herbs and spices, and yeah. So all the local is basically, we use only local ingredients in our cooking.
Okay.
So we buy all the local ingredients from the farmers in the area. That we also are working on an amazing project right now to support them. It's actually a Permaculture Institute Zanzibar project with us. Organic farming, etc. So that's very exciting. And so yeah, it's very much farm to table, sea to table menu. We have some really cool vegan dishes because Jessica's vegan. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, no, I didn't.
So yeah, and our chef is so talented, and he actually started as a security guard with us 12 years ago.
How great is that?
And then you'll see it in the movie, in the Kwanini movie.
Okay.
And then he wanted to work in the kitchen, and he just has, it's like a natural gift. It's crazy. It's like a natural gift for cooking. It's incredible. And now he's our head chef now, hey? Our head chef.
I mean, that's amazing that he had that opportunity, because there's lots of people in the world who are security guards who might think that they like to cook and they make dinner every night or whatever, but they might not be presented with an opportunity to actually be trained, cultivated, and become the executive chef of a luxury resort.
Yeah. Well, and again, things we keep it really real. So we've had times where people have ordered a Coke and have received a coconut.
Okay.
Like full coconut. So it's just Mimi, all I can tell you is that it's a real place. I think it's probably the easiest, simplest way to describe.
I love it.
That's just real.
I'm going to ask you in a few minutes about, before we finish today, about 3 words that come to mind when you think of Manta Resort. But you can think about it while I ask these other more logistical questions. So for people to get there, we talked about how remote you are. I know you have flights from Zanzibar, right? So is that typically how people arrive? What other ways are there to get there? Do people ever boat there? What are the options?
Yeah. So the flights come through Zanzibar. We have an island airport. It's not an international airport, so it just receives smaller planes.
Okay.
But it's a proper airport. So you fly in from most of our guests do a safari coming to this part of the world, and then end up with us. So they either come from mainland or come directly. Some people fly in directly into Zanzibar, which you can do, into Zanzibar International Airport. But basically, all the flights come through from Zanzibar, and it's a 30-minute flight from Zanzibar to Pemba Island, and then it's an hour and 20-minute drive with our transfer service all the way up to Manta. Yeah.
Okay. That's not too hard. And I also do like to talk about what to combine it with. And you're right. So doing a safari first and maybe ending here would be an amazing way to end a trip to Africa on safari. East Africa would be closest, probably, and easiest to do, but it would be possible to do from South Africa also. But East Africa would certainly be the easiest.
Absolutely. It's a long way from South Africa or Zimbabwe or Botswana. So Kenya or Tanzania. Yeah.
Great. And then as far as how long somebody might want to stay with you, what's typical or what do you recommend?
Our average stay is about 5 nights. But then it depends what you're doing. Divers normally stay longer, up to 2 weeks. So it really depends what you're doing. So we have a lot of honeymooners as well, a lot of couples, a few groups, but it is more of a couples getaway. It's more of a couples place. And we just have such nice people who really know where they are. And we're very lucky that way, because that's really what makes it special too, actually, are our guests, because it takes two to tango. Yeah, it really does.
Yeah, I would agree. It seems like a great honeymoon spot. Although I know if my kids saw this presentation, they would also say, "Hey, we want you to bring us with you."
Oh yeah, adventure, diving.
Yeah.
And then Gezi Forest as well, the amazing rainforest, right? It's one of the oldest rainforests in East Africa, right on our doorstep as well.
Amazing. All right. Well, so what would you say would be the 3 words that you would think of to describe Manta Resort?
I would say real. I would use the word trust, because we've built up so much trust as a foreign external entity on Pemba. And I would say future. We're really looking forward to a bright future in how we can do things in fishing and tourism and all the different economies of Pemba. So we're looking at the future and how we can do this properly and really safeguard the future of Pemba Island.
I love that. I think what you guys are doing is amazing. I love that you are an example to others of what's possible in this.
Thank you, Mimi. I appreciate that very much.
Well,
I wish everyone was here. I wish everyone was here to get that too. And I'm going to relay that as soon as I walk out the door.
Oh, you're so sweet. Well, I do think, sometimes it just takes showing people what is possible, and then they believe it for themselves. So whether it be another, person who invests in the luxury travel space, or someone who's very interested in sustainability, or whatever it might be, it is possible. You've shown it's possible, and I hope we see other examples of things like this in the future.
Yeah.
And before we shut down, I think the last thing to talk about is, so if one of my lucky travelers gets to go stay with you all, Matthew and I were talking about before we started what would be a nice gift to give you when you're there. And we talked about having why don't you say it? You could describe it better than me.
Yeah, basically catching your own dinner. So going out on one of the traditional sailing ngalawas with a fishing crew who are from the community, friends of ours, and just go out with them with a hand line, no fishing rods, just a hand line and a team of guys on the sailing ngalawa, and trying your luck to get some tuna or some dorado or kingfish and that's even if you don't catch a fish, that's just an amazing experience.
So okay. Well, thank you, Matthew. This has been delightful. I so appreciate you joining me. I feel so grateful I met Jessica and Marrakesh, and I hope that we get to send you lots of clients to enjoy this beautiful part of the world that not a lot of people get to enjoy. So
really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, absolutely. All right. We will stay in touch. Thanks again.